think we're ready whenever you are.
I think we're ready, Kyle.
All right. Well, it is 7 o'clock, so we will call the meeting to order. Yeah. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for all.
All right, so roll call. Looks like Heather,
Yep.
Stacy,
Yes.
David,
Here.
Megan.
She was here.
I see her.
I said here, you didn't hear me?
Nope, I didn't. Now I do. It's
Okay.
all right.
Okay, that's
All
okay.
right. All the board members are accounted for. 1D, approval of the agenda.
I'll make it.
I heard Heather, so I'm going to go with Heather. Second.
I'll make it.
All right, David, second. So we'll go into the informational items. I don't know if I'm having the issue. Oh, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
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 I want to see them one at a time. All right. Any opposed? None opposed. So on to informational items. 2A is other.
Okay, board members, I have a few brief items to share with you, and then we have a video I would like to share. We are in the midst of hiring season, as you're all aware. Just wanted to update you on a couple things. As you're aware, Miss Garine is leaving our district, our middle school counselor, and we're all sad to see her depart. But we have started the hiring process for that, and the site-based council at the middle school is conducting a round of interviews tomorrow. Mr. Morwessel shared with me that they're interviewing 6 candidates tomorrow and are willing to conduct more interviews next week if that's what's needed to find the best fit. So that process is moving forward, as is the process for hiring a new Family Resource Youth Service Center director at the middle school and high school. I believe those interviews are being scheduled today for sometime next week. According to board policy and state law, I need to be evaluated by the end of June. So that's creeping up on us. It's my intention to provide you with documentation to help you in that process. It will be similar to the documentation I shared with you last year according to the 7 superintendent standards. It's my goal to provide you with enough documentation so that you can do the evaluation, but not to bury you under a mountain of paper. So if you still have what I shared with you last year and want to give me some feedback, if you want to see more or less, if there's something in particular you would like to see, feel free to let me know. But I will make every effort to get you that documentation by the end of May, so you have time to look through that and digest it before the board meeting in June. As you are aware, we've had pickups at our schools today. Parents and students have been picking up their belongings, and it is it's a bit of a sad affair to see the school year in this way. The end of the school year is ordinarily, there's some pomp and circumstance there, and it's a busy time of year, but it's a good time of year. And this year is just, just a little sad. We are sad for all of our kids, but especially our 4th graders our 8th graders and of course our seniors. So just understand we will make every effort to honor those students when we're able to do so. Ms. Neesmith has sent a letter to the community detailing some things we hope to do for our seniors in late July, including an in-person graduation. So we are trying to move forward with that. Yesterday was a good day, even though it's been a sad end of the school year. I'm sure you've seen on social media the signs that were distributed yesterday, and I actually still need to get a few of those out tomorrow, so that's what I'll be doing tomorrow morning. But we just wanted to recognize our employees. There's no substitute for a live teacher at the front of a classroom. But I think NTI in our district went about as well as it could go, all things considered. Our classified staff has been phenomenal. In particular, our custodial staff, maintenance staff, food service staff have all been fantastic, and we will do some things to recognize those folks over the coming weeks. So having said that, we have wrestled with this issue of our track for the better part of 2 years. I know that we all want to see this come to some sort of resolution. But I have a brief video I would like to share with you. This is an aerial video of the track, and it's pretty well done. But we've marked the blisters that have appeared and tried to color code those blisters and repair marks of blisters that occurred last summer. So having said that, I think the video is about 5 minutes long, but this will give you a unique perspective of the issue that we've been dealing with. So go ahead, Jason. So as you can see, there are numerous blisters on the track. Some of them are more pronounced than others. The yellow markings are areas that were previously repaired. The orange marks on the track are blisters that have appeared recently. Again, some of these are as small as the size of a nickel, and others are a foot in diameter. It just varies, but as you can see, there is a little bit of a linear pattern to these blisters, and that was in my mind at least, a big factor in thinking about there was some type of chemical, solvent, fuel, something that leaked from a piece of equipment, just because they do appear to be in a linear fashion. Having read the report from Geotechnology that I shared with you, that's the report dated April the 10th. It's also at the very least plausible that moisture has played a factor in this as well. So this is where the test strip begins, and as you can see, and you'll see multiple blisters that have appeared on the test strip. So that certainly suggests that the issue, the cause of these blisters was something other than some type of chemical or solvent that leaked on the track, despite the linear pattern of the blisters. So, Jason, the video stalled. Is it on my, at least it's stalled?
On mine is still going.
Okay. Okay.
Looks like we're about halfway through the video.
Okay. It's caught up now. Yeah. Okay, I think that's, Jason, that's good. I think everybody, I mean, it's significant. Everybody gets the idea. But just wanted to share that with all of you. This will, Jason, this will be on our YouTube page also, correct? If anybody wants to take a look at it. So that is all that I have under the other section of the agenda. Unless anyone has any questions for me.
I just wanted to say how great the morale was for the end of the year. I think the leaders of the district really stepped up and appreciated the teachers, the retirement, everything. I just am really proud to be a part of this. So great job, guys.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions or things to discuss? I'm having some serious connection issues.
No, I think it was great. I think the pickup at the middle school I heard went really, really well. It looked like they were ahead of the game and they were letting folks kind of come whenever they wanted on this last couple days. So I think that's really good. And the end of year videos were great. The senior parade that the kids had organized was also another thing that was really cool at the end of the year. I think that senior car parade is a tradition that would be great to see that continue on even when we don't have to do something like that.
I suspect that in communities all over the country, there will be senior parades every spring. So yeah, I agree. The schools, the teachers, we had a lot of folks volunteer to help clean out lockers, and I made my rounds on Saturday morning, and everybody was ready to go. Very well organized on Saturday morning, and anything that's not picked up, we will keep that, through the beginning of school in August, hopefully. So if anybody wasn't able to make it, we will hang on to their belongings.
Okay. Was Kevin gonna go over something under the other as well?
Salary and budget.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, can you hear me?
With an echo.
Yeah, Matt's gonna turn his off real quick.
Matt's is off.
Sorry for those technical difficulties. I sent you some information regarding some things with the salary scale. I don't know if you guys had a chance to look at those. Some minor changes that unfortunately we didn't know about last month when we approved that. So just look over that and let me know. The idea would be that we would submit that for approval again at the meeting at the end of the month, I think 2 weeks from today. And then that should be all taken care of. The budget that I sent you, I just sent you over tonight. That way you have a chance to look over it and ask any questions. There's obviously a lot of stuff going on right now that could make this year very interesting. We have always had some, I'll say fudge room, a little safety cushion built into SEEK. And right now I don't anticipate that any cuts that we will likely receive mid-year to SEEK will drop below or even to the number that we have budgeted there. So I feel comfortable with that. And then the only real change, we had the changes where we had the salaries from the bus drivers and the food service staff that were included in there. The county retirement rate dropped back down to what it was, and we talked about that at the last meeting. So I took those increases that we had in the draft budget back out, The only other substantive thing that I've changed in this is that our interest revenue is going to be down significantly for next year, similar to what happened like after the meltdown in 2009. So I've taken that budget figure back to like 15,000. We'll still get about $1,200 to $1,500 a month, depending on what month we're in, I think. And I've made up for that with beginning balance cash, increasing that number. And we should have, that extra $50,000 in cash laying around at the end of the year to make that possible. So really, it's kind of the same thing that we had in January. All staffing changes and things like that will take place with the working budget in September. And hopefully we'll know more about, everything, what we're going to look like by then. But, just kind of wait and see on some of this stuff. The one thing that it may, and I think the file may say initial on there, I don't have the Fund 2 budget in there. And that's typical. They haven't released any of those figures, and they normally don't this early in the month of May. I anticipate that's going to be later, but I hope, in the next week we'll get some more information, and I'll send out a revised one that includes that information to go over anything. But remember, Fund 2 is state and federal money that's kind of money in, money out, so it won't really impact the general fund budget at all. Does anybody have any questions?
Nope. Thanks for sending that out.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Anything else under other? All right. We'll move on to the recommended board motions. 3A is the approval of the minutes.
I'll make the motion.
David, any questions or discussions? Second,
I'll second.
Stacy,
Yes.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. 3B is the approval to adopt a resolution authorizing the Walton Verona Independent School District Finance Corporation to issue revenue bonds.
I'll make it.
Okay. Any questions, discussion? Second.
I'll make it.
Okay. So is this where we go into over onto this other page then?
I mean, that's what we've done in the past.
Okay. If I could suggest we take a vote, and then Lincoln, at that point, if you could share some information with the board.
Sure.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Okay.
So what Kevin and I had discussed, based on the longevity of the resurfacing of the track, would be to look at a 10-year bond issue. And based on issuing $380,000 for a 10-year payment, with today's interest rates, you're coming in right at $44,000 per year over the next 10 years. And I'm singing the same song that I have the last 6-7 years. Interest rates are as low as they pretty much ever have been as we sit here today. We would be looking at a bond sale date of roughly June 18th, which would make proceeds available the first week of July. Average interest rate, conservatively 2.85. I hope to come in better than that. I kind of want to under promise, but current market rates the rates tend to be just a fraction higher if it's a smaller amount of bonds. So I'm trying to be conservative at 2.85. Again, hope to be better than that. Questions?
Nope, none for me.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, and I do apologize, but Mr. Hart, I think that we have, and if someone has more insight or knowledge of this, please let me know. But I think we've approved item 3B, which is the approval to adopt a resolution authorizing the school district to issue revenue bonds. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe at this time we need to call the Finance Corporation meeting to order. This is the attachment in the portal, board members. It's a separate agenda. And Kyle, I should have called you and gone over this with you before the meeting, and just got sidetracked. I'll do that.
I thought we finished this meeting and then jumped to that one.
Yeah, that's no problem. Because usually if you do it in the middle of the meeting, you would temporarily recess your traditional
Right.
meeting. You may as well wait till the very end.
Yeah, we finished this meeting out and then just call the next meeting to order and vote and then close the meeting.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Kyle, we need to go on to the next motion.
Okay.
We'll just
My-
go on to the next motion. So,
Yeah.
sorry, I'm having all kinds of technical difficulties over here. Like everybody's blurring, and I can't.
Me too.
I have 6 meetings a week on this thing and don't have issues. So I don't know my problem today, but we'll
Are
get
you
through
on
it.
dialogue?
So,
So am I correct? We are okay to move to item 3C on the agenda.
Right.
okay, so 3C is the approval of the construction bids and revised PG1 for Walton Verona Paving and Award Contract 2.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Megan, motion.
Okay. Emmett, feel free to jump in here, but board members, we had discussed on the paving project at the athletic complex, in an attempt to save some money, we had discussed only doing some more minor repairs, sealing cracks, filling potholes, things of that nature. And we had, the number that comes to mind, I think we had discussed something in the neighborhood of $45,000 to $47,000 for this project. And when the bids came in, the bid for that minor work was $15,000, which was significantly below what we had anticipated. So at that point, I asked Emmett to contact the company and to get more information about what would it cost to do a complete seal coat and restriping, which is what we ordinarily do on a 3-year cycle. And that came in at, I believe, in the neighborhood of $23,000. So by the time you add other fees into this, we can do a complete project, which is what we ordinarily do, for $42,000, which was significantly less than the amount we had discussed previously. Emmett, can you clarify anything that I just butchered there?
No, you did a great job. I'm going to do a screen share if you don't mind,
Sure.
just for a second. So, am I live on the screen share yet? No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Desktop. How's that?
Yep.
There you go.
Okay, great. This is the bid set for the paving project. You can see my cursor. We had a little bit of a repair down here by the bleachers and a little bit of a repair up in the front area as you go over towards the tennis. But pretty much everything was crack fill through the entire balance of the entire center. And so that's what we had. We had a budget over 50, and as Dr. Baker mentioned, we dialed it back significantly. The bids, when we received them, we only received 2 bids. One was from Rigler Blacktop and one was from Paul Michaels and Sons. They were fairly close. Rigler was a little more competitive. And as Dr. Baker mentioned, we had also mentioned what about putting some of the seal coating scope back in So we got a price from Rigler, which was for $23,700. So how we've dealt with it at this point was we don't really have an official change order or know what the mechanism might be. What we've done is we've just built up the contingency right now. So if we have a good mechanism to add it as an a la carte, either through a change order or separate PO, the money has been appropriated in the BG. If not, then we can close it out and we don't need to use it. I did have a long conversation with Gary Least, and he wanted to talk to Greg Dunbar. I have not heard back from Greg, but Gary was optimistic that we had a mechanism somehow to make this work with the contingency dollars. Now, the one thing I did do is I did analyze the 23,000. In similar projects, they've been running $1 to $1.10 a square foot. This is at 90 cents. So I highly recommend it if it's within range, because it is a great value at, I'm saying, a 10 to 15% under market value. I don't know the reasons for that: low fuel cost, lack of work. I know a lot of projects, are changing and things. So I can't really tell you why, but it seemed like it came back a tremendous value. A lot of times when you add something possibly with a change order or separate PO, you don't get good value. That's not the case with what we requested here.
So the low bid was Rigler Blacktop Paving at $15,000 for the initial scope of work. And again, we've requested and recommend that we do this additional work. It's additional for this project, but it's something we ordinarily do. We already had this money budgeted for this project. So again, it's, as Emmett said, this is, it's not an insignificant amount of money at total project of just over 42,000, but we are getting some value for that dollar in that this is less expensive than we would ordinarily, a smaller expense than we would ordinarily face.
The one thing I would also add is many of my districts, Boone especially, has found great value into staying up with their seal coating. If you have an aggressive seal coat and crack fill program, you can really extend the pavement lifespan, and long term it's actually cheaper. So doing these kind of larger seal coat projects will keep you away from having to do a full 1.5 inch overlay on the whole thing.
Now, given that we're taking advantage of this situation to expand the scope, did we contact Paul Michael and Sons to give them an opportunity to rebid that larger project?
I did not. I did not. It was, we just kind of looked at it with Rigler and we said, what would it take to go the next step with it? And they gave us a good number. So, I still need to walk it through the Department of Education. But no, we did not reach back out to them. I don't think there's a mechanism that would allow us to actually go back and kind of rebid it, so to speak, like that. I mean, I think you have to stay with whoever got the low bid and then work with them accordingly, whoever that would have been. I will tell you, I think what might have helped you is Boone just did a very large bid, hundreds of thousands. I think it was a little over $500,000 worth of seal coating over about a dozen campuses, and Rigler was the second bid. So maybe the fact that they missed that one is why they got more aggressive on this one.
Thank you.
Emmett, I just want to thank you for explaining that kind of stuff about like how it would save us money in the long run, because that's not stuff that my forte is in. So I appreciate that kind of information. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else have any questions for Emmett or Dr. Baker on this? And we will So Megan had the first on that.
Yeah.
Second,
I'll make it.
David. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. I think I did my notes wrong, so it should be on 3D for the approval of construction bids and revised BG1 for Walton Brown Track and Field Phase 2 and award contract 2.
Yes.
I'll make it.
Megan? Discussion? Questions? We're going to be discussing this one.
Okay, board members, we have discussed this at length on multiple occasions. If you're looking at the attachment in the portal, if you look at the second page of the BG1, that's where all the numbers or most of the numbers occur. The low bid was regular construction, blacktop paving, and that was, correct me if I'm wrong, Emmett, $361,000, $950.
Yes, let me, yes, and I'll just give you a little information on how the bid was set up. We wanted to evaluate different rubberized surface coatings. So we did a base bid in this bid package 2 that was for the lime stabilization. It was for the new asphalt. It was for the demo, all those pieces. And then the alternates, we had 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 5 alternates that were 5 different rubber systems. So we could properly evaluate the systems and get pricing so we knew exactly. It gives us more control over who's going to do the installation and what actual system versus turning it loose to the free market. So long story short, you have to take a base bid and you have to take an alternate or you don't have a complete system. And as Dr. Baker alluded to, the one we recommended was the base bid and alternate 2, the Plexitrack system that was going to be put on by Tennis Technologies out of Louisville. For a total of $361,950.
So with the Plexitrack, Claire, could you talk to the board a little bit about the warranty language and what level of protection this would afford the school district?
Yeah, so the warranty language, for the most part, it's actually a fairly complicated set of parameters, and Emmett drafted that because that's what the architect would do. But in terms of the warranty, I think there's the warranty language that provides protection because the contractor, after the work is complete, has to warrant it for 36 months, that it meets those specifications and that it's appropriate. But even above that, there's other procedural protections that I think are significant to that. One is that prior to the beginning of the project, an examination has to be done in an affirmative written statement that the surface of the track is ready to be redone and paved again. And then after that, after the completion of the work, there is also a review phase. So the warranty is there to add protection, but there's also the procedural before and after protections on top of that. And I think Emmett can talk more about the specifics of the warranty language that he devised to talk about the technical aspects of the project.
Yes, bear with me. I'm bringing up the bid specification now. This, let me do a screen share. We had an addenda, which I don't have on my screen, but let me find it here. We adjusted this in the addenda. I don't have this on the screen. This was the warranty. It pretty much was a base for 30. So we extended the warranty out. I can leave my desk. It's in the other room. The warranty went out for 5 years, and it actually includes also blisters, delaminations, etc. We also added that the subcontractor needs to approve the asphalt paving prior to starting. So I feel it was a very intense warranty that we added in the addenda phase that Plastic Track was more than willing to oblige to. So when we talk about warranty, we also talk about how good the warranty is based on the company that backs it. You have to understand that the Plastic Track system, when we looked at these ones that were actually being bid, alternates 1A through 2, all these other systems are kind of home cooking, as I've mentioned, which are ones where somebody like even Tennis Technologies has their own. They have their own systems that are not kind of a national franchise. So when you look at what the warranty is and who's backing it is, it's usually an out-of-town subcontractor is the one who's backing it. The nice thing about the Plexitrack is it's a little more money, but you get a little better backing of the 5-year warranty system. And so that's why we're recommending that piece to be the alternate 2A, which is a difference of $13,000 more, but you get the Plastic Track that actually backs it. And when you look at the Plastic Track, a lot of this, we did some evaluation as well when we looked at these. These are some of the references that we got from Tennis Technologies. One of the other things that I wrote into the bid specification in addition to the warranty was you must submit references and so forth, because we knew we were going to be kind of tight on time to review them. I'll give you this bit of information. There are 1/2 inch and 3/8 inch systems. There's no real difference in the systems when it comes to the cushioning, the lifespan, all those things. A lot of times people use 1/2, a lot of times people use 3/8. My information that I was getting from even the installers like Tennis Technologies was he doesn't know why people spec a 1/2. We have always used the 3/8, and that's usually the norm that we're still seeing. So you'll see in this list, there are a few 1/2. It's just kind of like when somebody says, I want the best of the best, and a lot of people can't explain why it has the extra thickness in it. They said sometimes if there's some cracks and the blacktop isn't the best, they'll go a little thicker to help cover that. But when we talk to the manufacturer's tech department, it has no bearing on the lifespan or the warranty, and it has no technical differences in the actual running and nature of how it actually behaves. But you can see, we have some pretty big facilities that have the Plexitrack. Covenant Catholic has it. St. X Louisville has it. Sometimes you can get it in colors. That gets very expensive. And just so you know, the 1/2 inch is $20,000 more than the 3/8. So when there's no difference, I can't recommend something like that. But we have a lot of schools in Owensboro and other ones. I want you to also look at, there are other systems here like the Track Top 2000, some of the cheaper systems, but you can see Tennis Technologies, who will be actually installing the rubber, has I feel very good with this kind of resume that I see. This is all over the state of Kentucky. We called the checked mark ones that had the same type of system, Tate's Creek. There's some big tracks and there weren't problems associated with this. So I feel very good recommending the Plastic Track. I feel very good with the installer, and I feel very good with the warranty setup that we actually have in place. So,
do they have any information on surface wear? Is that why they would recommend, or why the 1/2 inch would be recommended? So you've got a little bit more thickness on the track when you think about use. If you've got that extra little bit, I don't know if that affords you any more surface life.
Well, this is where I'm going to defer to the experts, and it gets into the chemistry side of it. The surface of the Plastic Track has a little different chemical composition. They do say that the plastic track tends to breathe better than the standard latex track. They say that it has a better, and I certainly am not recommending this, but it has a better success rate of resurfacing it and refinishing the top coating on it. So there are people that do that with some more success with the plastic track. I can tell you, my career, I'm never going to do one. But
Yeah.
but regardless, it has a harder. The way they've described it is that surface, that skin, that tension on it is a harder, crispier surface. And I certainly can't tell you about the chemistry that creates that. There's a whole bunch of literature. I did lay my hands on samples. I had Jeff from Tennis Technology. I could drive him up to my office, and I had some squares, and I know that I looked at them, and I dropped them off. I know Jeremy was able to look at them today, and they, you can look at the Top Coat 2000, which is kind of the base system, and it has the granules. So it's not the stranded, it's the granules. And then the plastic track, when you mess with them, they really feel about the same, but it does look like it's a little shinier. And I just want everybody to kind of understand, it's a premier system, but it has a little different look to it than the base system. But unfortunately, the squares were only this big. They're like 2 inches square. So, but you can see the list of references. I feel very good with these systems and the warranties that we have in place. So.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, board members, the total project cost looks like would be $396,000 and change. However, of that amount, approximately $18,000 is contingency, and with a complete rebuild, I would not anticipate the need to use a lot of contingency money. It's like, when you remodel a house, you need a lot of contingency money because you don't know what you're going to run into. But when you're building from the ground up, probably not going to need as much contingency. So, having said that, we were a month ago, we were talking about the $400,000 to $500,000 range. While this is a lot of money, as Emmett alluded to earlier, I think we may be the beneficiaries of some unique circumstances with the economy and so forth that are going to enable us to save a little bit of money on this large project.
Yeah, thanks again, Emmett, for all the work that you put into this. This is a tremendous savings versus where I think we thought we were headed just a few months ago. And it's not a great situation, but I look at it like we've had this pile of lemons forever, and this is probably the sweetest lemonade that we're ever going to be able to make out of this.
Yeah, well, one of the things I was pleased with, and I don't know what the market conditions are and why I don't really produce blacktop bids, but I do know that this was about $25,000 or more. I'd have to pull the other bids out of a very similar project I bid recently, probably about 3 weeks ago. So I felt very good with the value that was presented here.
Yeah, thanks for meeting us out there and all that time you took to explain to those of us that were able to make it. I knew it was bad, but seeing it in person in the video, it just really kind of sums it all up of how bad it actually is. So I appreciate you and Jeremy and everybody's time that went into just breaking this down. I know this has been an ongoing thing, so thanks to you and Jeremy and everybody that's put in effort on this, all the people that marked up that track, etc. So, all right. So we had Megan. Any other thing? It looks like everybody's froze on my screen.
I'm just going to have a comment. Just the fact that, we were out of school for this coronavirus and the kids missed track, and at least the kids didn't miss track another year. I'm just glad we're going to take care of it. They missed it this year because we had to be out. So essentially it kind of worked out together, and now we're going to fix it and they'll be back next year. I'm just glad that it's going to be taken care of.
Yes, I agree. So, all right. So Megan had the first on that. Any other discussion? If not, we will take a second.
I have a question.
Okay.
What about that unpaid bill? Will that go toward, or was that a different topic, like in the meeting, or because that was originally from the initial track expense?
Could I just answer that by saying that's to be determined, and we may need to discuss that in an executive session at some point, but that is very much still on our radar. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
Something we need to discuss in executive session.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or discussion? If not, do we have a second?
I'll make it.
David, second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? All five. All right. So then we're going to go to 3E, which is the approval of the district professional development plan.
I'll make it.
Heather? All right. Dr.
Okay.
Baker, you're discussing this.
Yeah, Miss Gregg,
Yes.
you're up.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought they were already saying, yeah, we got it. The professional development, we do a needs assessment in multiple ways. So we are not going into this blindly. And so everybody in the district has some things that they're assigned to, which some are technology-based safe schools, which they have every year. And we found that that professional ethics class or I guess it's like a seminar that the lady who is a lawyer in Kentucky, and she will be giving that professional ethics 6-hour learning day. And then aligning standards. We have a lot of standards, a lot of subjects that the standards are new or changed slightly. So we have a lot of hours that we're putting aside. I think we have new standards for math, English, physical education, social studies, and then computer science split from a computer, like a technology class. So everybody's got something new. Music doesn't. And science, we're still, recovering from a few years ago. So everybody will be looking at their standards. And then we have school-specific ones. So the preschool is going to be really concentrated on their individual education plans, working on those. Elementary is doing it'll be very exciting to go to. They are going to do student-led conferencing, which is a really progressive way to do conferences. The students will participate, and they should be able to explain to parents, with parents and teachers, what's going on, what kind of progress they're making. So that's exciting. And middle school will be working on behavior management, both in the classroom and in common ways, throughout the school. And then the high school is going to work on technology topics. That's pretty much it. You have any questions about professional development?
No, but I love the student-led conferences, and that's awesome.
I know, I'm so excited about it. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
Just a couple things I'll add. First of all, Michelle, I want to thank you for your work on this. I know that it can be a challenge working with everyone and getting everyone on the same page on this plan. So just want to thank you for that. And just
Thanks.
Want to add that we had contracted with Teresa Combs to provide this ethics training for educators several months ago before we had hired Claire in her present position. So she'll be providing that training. And I've worked with Teresa in the past in another district, and she is excellent. So again, that was just a timing issue, but that's something in this day and age, educators can never get enough of that. So.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Michelle. So we have Heather with the first. Do we have a second?
I'll make it.
David? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so next is 3F, the approval of the 2020-2021 high school quest proposal.
I'll make it.
Heather? Any discussion on this? I don't see anybody on here to discuss that.
No, just a couple things. Board members, we had discussed this previously. And I think we're delaying the trip for this summer, but we are not sending a group of students anywhere this summer or this fall. Excuse me. We're just pushing this out a year, and this trip will occur in the summer of 2021. The students who were selected this year will get to go on the trip next year. And at least in my mind, the decision that you have to make tonight is how many additional students do you want to send? We discussed initially 4 additional students last month, and I believe David suggested that perhaps we look at more than 4 additional students. And I think I shared with you in a Friday update, one of the sponsors did express some concerns about if we make the group any larger than 4 additional students, that may hamper their ability to go and get into certain attractions. My thought is that while it was their intention to go to Boston this year, they may need to rethink that anyway and choose a different destination since they have a year now to make that decision. So my thought is that you're the board, you approve the budget, you control the purse strings, you decide how many students you want to go on this trip, and it's our job to make that work. The Quest advisors, who I think the world of and respect greatly, have had the opportunity to give their input, and they've done that. So at this point, this is your decision, and we will respect whatever that decision is. So unless somebody has another issue that they think needs to be decided, I think personally that the major thing that we need to decide tonight is how many additional students do you want to send on the trip? And you've had some cost estimates shared with you on this. It's not an inexpensive endeavor, but this is something unique to our district. I've not heard of any other districts doing anything like this, and it's something that we all, I think, should take pride in. I've always felt that if you want to determine what a school district values, you just look at 2 things. You look at what they fund, and you look at what they measure. And by funding this, you're making a statement that you value getting our kids, as much as we love this area, out of this area to see the world, see historical sites, and do some independent investigation and research. And I think this is a fantastic thing that this district does for our kids.
I think it's a wonderful program. This is one of the crown jewels, if you will, of our district. I think it really is fantastic. I did encourage us to look at expanding that program, and I did read the report back from the Quest sponsors saying that they believed any more than 4 would be difficult for them to manage. For me, I would just like this to be as equitable as possible for all the students that are involved. So I guess my pushback would be if the Quest program leaders don't believe they could take more than 4 children, I would encourage them to look at ways that they can make this equitable so we get at least even numbers. So that may mean if they don't feel comfortable with taking more than 4 extra students, perhaps that means that they have to cut back on some of the students that are guaranteed spots so that we can get more of a fair share, if you will, of students from a new group and students from the existing group. I'd love for everybody to be able to go that was promised to go this year. But I'd also love to be able to just take more than 4 new students next year. So that would be my feedback is I get it. I hear it that 4 is kind of the max they're recommending. And I would say if that's the case, then I would push back to say, how can we make this more equitable?
Dr. Baker, did you ever hear or look into our liability with those who are graduating, who would then be going on this trip?
You know, I did not, and I apologize. You asked that question during our last meeting. Claire, are you still on?
I am on.
Okay. Just are you kind of up to speed on where we are with this Quest trip and the question concerning liability?
It's something that you would want to talk to your insurance company about and confirm with them. And so the issue with liability is more the issue of coverage. So that would be the concern. In terms of liability, I mean, if we have a trip, ultimately the district is liable, and then there's different immunities for that for children under our care and control. But the issue is, do we have insurance coverage for that? And it really depends on each policy, how those policies read and how the coverage goes. Now, there are certain exemptions in some policies as to whether superintendents can express permission for students to be covered. And some policies work that way, but that is something that you really would want to confirm with your insurer.
And I think the bigger question, Claire, is we'll have students potentially going on this trip who are no longer students at Walton Verona. They will have graduated by the time the trip would take place.
Yeah, and that's why I'm talking about the coverage issue, because you will certainly have coverage for students on trips that are still students of the district. I think it becomes a question when you're talking about students who may have graduated. I believe that there's probably a way that you could work through that with the insurance company. And I know that in some cases, express permission from the superintendent has worked, but that is something you would want to confirm before taking those students.
Let me do this. And again, I apologize. I should have already had you an answer.
That's okay.
I will contact the insurance company with Kevin tomorrow and look at the language, run that by Claire if need be, and to see if, I'm just thinking out loud here, if we needed to purchase some type of additional coverage to cover those, I'll say, former students, that's something we could consider and discuss. I do think this is a working meeting tonight, and this trip is not till next summer. I do think we have some latitude here. If you didn't want to make a decision and vote on this tonight, we could have this on the agenda for our regular meeting on the 28th of this month and give you a little more time, and I could get you some answers.
And I apologize that I can't give you more answers, and I'm not trying to give you a lawyery it depends answer. But for insurance, it really is a matter of contract, and it's not just what does the law say. I do think that there's probably a way that you can work through the issue. So if you're concerned about the liability piece, I think it makes sense to table this issue until the next meeting, as long as because superintendent says that can wait. I would probably table this issue and then just raise it at the next voting meeting.
I mean, that's my concern. And then if we do have to purchase additional insurance, what does that look like? How much are we talking there?
I don't know that you'll have to purchase additional. I think what you want to do is just confirm that there's some coverage, or are there any procedural steps you have to take to make sure there's coverage. And usually your insurer will work with you on that. But yeah, I mean, if additional purchase coverage is necessary, then we would be able to talk about those costs more with a little bit more information.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Kevin just stepped out and made a quick phone call, and we're being told verbally at this point that those former students would be covered under our policy. But let me do a little more legwork and maybe get something in writing to assure us that those young people, those former students, would still be covered.
I have a question. This is Stacy. Just because of the situation with the coronavirus and we're all having to kind of work out a new process right now with everything, everybody's going to have to give a little bit. Is there any way that we could, I don't want to say maybe shorten the trip a little bit so we could fit both of these years in? Like take one group for 3.5 days and another group for 3.5 days, or tell them they've got this amount of money and then figure out how to figure it out?
I think anything's possible. I haven't discussed that. To the best of my knowledge, no one's discussed that with the Quest sponsors, advisors. So you're suggesting we take the group that was supposed to go this year on a trip of shorter duration and take a group of the same size on a second trip that's also a shorter duration, both next summer. Is that what you're?
That's what I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just trying to brainstorm how we could make this work and be a win-win for everybody.
Sure.
And again, it's just a discussion. So.
Okay, sure. That's something I could discuss with the sponsors and give them a chance to give us some feedback, some recommendations, if you will, for that. I will say a lot of the work for the trip goes on just before the trip, as far as not just the selection, but student research and things of that nature. So, I guess it would be possible to maybe take one group in June, one group in July. But let me speak to the sponsors about that possibility.
And I'm okay if we all want to talk about it. If you guys don't think that's a good idea, which he doesn't even have to worry about it. I was just trying to brainstorm a little bit.
I mean, I don't know that it's necessarily a bad idea per se. I just don't know if they could, based upon, my years of hearing what they do in their presentations to the board, I just don't know if they could get in the quality of experiences that they normally get in that short amount of time frame.
Yeah,
right.
It was difficult to do that and do the research project that comes at the end. I think that's where it would be really difficult to do justice to having the children get to all of the different places they need to go, for everybody to visit where they need to and get what they need for the research. That would be my only thoughts on that.
Well, but if we're talking about making two trips at two separate times, maybe we maybe they look at splitting up the sponsors and bringing on other people so that they're, it's basically two Quest trips in 1 year and just stagger them. I mean, I don't know that all of the sponsors have to go on both trips. I personally like the idea. That way nobody's getting slighted and they don't want to add more people to it. So split, conquer, and divide, right? I mean, see if that's something that they'd be interested in doing. Bringing on a couple other sponsors, let some of the more experienced ones lead, your two most experienced people. They're the ones that are going to lead each trip. Well, so I personally like that idea. If we're not able to add, if they don't want to add more, and we can't push it back to this fall or something like that, I think it's a good idea worth checking into. Do we need to make a motion and vote to table this?
It could also die for lack of a second.
Yeah. Can you hear me, Kyle?
I can.
Okay. So I was thinking too, and I respect what they're saying. If it's too many people, like they do it enough, they know, right? However, I still want to allow I don't want to slight the kids that would have been going next year, not a chance to go. So what if we did something at a smaller scale, closer, like Chicago or somewhere that they could drive, like the school vans, like take 8 or 10 of them. And so you'd have less people, less chaperones. You wouldn't have the flight costs, and you could do like a 4-day weekend or something and just have it like a little bit shorter, but going into it that you're not going to be able to hit as many places as they've already scheduled for Boston or what have you. So you make your visit shorter, and then those kids can do the research and presentations on something that would be closer to where they could just drive. I don't know. Again, like what everyone's saying, just so that everyone gets a chance. But I do respect what they say about not taking too many kids, I could see where that would be a lot. So I'm open for anything.
Let me discuss that option with the sponsors, and we'll revisit this at our regular meeting in 2 weeks. We have the luxury of time on this one.
All right. So with that said, Heather was the approval. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Well, wait.
We don't want a second, do
We don't want to second this.
We don't want a second. So it's up to you all how to vote it.
Well, we could vote no. Yeah.
All in favor? Nay. Aye.
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 So we did not approve the quest trip. So all right.
I didn't vote on that.
Okay. So
You
Well-
can still bring it back on the agenda at another meeting if you need
Sure.
to. You could have moved to table it. You can still bring it back at another meeting. It doesn't mean you can never bring it back. So
Sure. I just didn't want the Quest sponsors to think that we were not approving the field trip. I think they've put a lot of work into it. I think it's great. Just a procedural thing.
yeah, I think that everybody's going to realize that we're talking about it, and we can all squash that. We didn't decline it. We're just not approving it at this point in time, based on discussion of it needing to be brought up at another meeting. And had we were being in person, I think this would have worked out a little different. So on to 3G, adjournment.
I'll make it.
Is that Heather?
I have a point of discussion. Do we need to go to the Finance Corporation meeting before we adjourn this meeting, or are we going to adjourn and then start another meeting?
My understanding was we adjourned and then went to the next meeting.
Okay.
That is correct.
Completely different than how we've ever done it. I just wanted to make sure.
I'll agree with you. Completely different. So, Heather, the motion, second. Do we have a second to adjourn?
I'll make it.
Megan, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we will move on to the finance meeting. We were done with that at 8:08. So on to the Walton Brown Independent School District Finance Corporation meeting. Call to order. To be approval of the agenda.
I'll make it.
Discussion. Second.
I'll make it.
Two. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So then on to 2. Let me switch meetings here. Give me a second.
Do you want me to just call it out?
Okay. Recommended board motions. The approval to adopt a resolution authorizing the issuance of revenue bonds.
I'll make it.
David? I don't know why that didn't print. Discussion? Second?
I'll make it.
Megan? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So then on to 2B, adjournment.
I'll make it.
Heather? Discussion? Second,
I'll
I'll
make
make
it.
it.
Stacy? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? So this meeting ended at 8:11. We are adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all very much. Lincoln, Emmett, Claire, thank you all very much. Michelle, I think she's gone. Kevin, Jeremy, thanks everybody. Appreciate it. Jason, Carrie, thank you all very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
good evening.
Thank you.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a
Bye,
good night.
guys.